I'm going to pack a lot of information in here. Gary's going to kind of be the moderator and ask some questions that come up as they come up that are important clarification questions. But then what we're going to do is at the end, we'll have a little question section. And as Gary mentioned, we'll have a little trivia question based on some of the content that we're talking about in remarketing during the presentation. And somebody's going to win a super epic prize. So cool. So let's jump in. So there's a few different ways to do remarketing on Amazon, and remarketing on Amazon is honestly like a secret, I feel like. And one of the ways that we're going to talk about today is a literal secret. It's a way to do remarketing that's not even taught by Amazon. And in fact, Amazon themselves didn't even know it existed until we discovered it inside our mastermind. I talked about it in a recorded interview at the Helium 10 event last year. And then Amazon started passing it around internally in their team, and they thought I was hacking the system. So they sent me like this warning email saying like, we've all seen your interview. You know, we think you might be hacking Amazon. I was like, guys, no, I'm not hacking Amazon. This is literally just like a way to set up campaigns that creates effective remarketing. So it's crazy. Like, you know, some of these things Amazon doesn't even know are possible. And I'm going to go over that today too. So we'll start with the most well-recognized way to do remarketing on Amazon, and that's sponsored display remarketing. So there are a few different ways to do remarketing on Amazon. There's sponsored display remarketing. There's DSP, which some of you guys may have access to, some of you guys may not. You have to be a pretty big seller to have access to it, or use another seat of a big seller or agency to have access to DSP. And then another way is step campaigns, sponsored display, product targeting campaigns. Self-targeted product placement campaigns, and that's the one that we'll cover at the end. So I'm not going to cover DSP retargeting during this presentation because a lot of people don't have access. It's really for quite large sellers. If there's demand for that, we can cover that too. We have plenty of DSP accounts that we manage as well. But I'm going to cover, you know, two big baskets of retargeting that you guys can implement, that all of you are guaranteed to be able to implement as long as you're live on Amazon. You only need one product live to be able to do retargeting. It's not like other types of PPC, which you actually need more than one product, you know, a whole family of products to do. As soon as you have a product live and selling on Amazon, you could do retargeting. So let's talk through sponsored display remarketing. So I'm going to go through just a quick slide visual on what this really is. So you've got your three basic types of advertising, right? Sponsored products, sponsored brands, and sponsored display. You guys are probably used to seeing this screen inside Seller Central. And for those of you guys that maybe are a bit new, you go to Seller Central, main menu, advertising, and then campaign manager, and then create campaign. And this is the screen you'll see. So if anybody wants to follow along, you can follow along yourself. So once you get into sponsored display, there's a few basic campaign setup questions of the campaign name, the ad type, when the start date is, the daily budget. And then you have to choose your first big choice, which is bidding. And we're going to go deeper into all of this. Then this is basically the screen that you see after you choose which products to advertise. You see, starting here, there's Amazon audiences, views remarketing, and purchase remarketing. So we're going to go spend a little bit of time on each. But first, and then you can either remarket to the products that you're advertising, or you can remarket to related to advertised products. Okay, so we're still in the broad overview here, but I'm going to dig into all of this. Then finally, you can upload custom creative if you want, or Amazon creates a series of different ad formats based on just your product thumbnail. And you can actually preview. You can see there's 10 different previews here of what they look like in different scenarios, because sponsored display ads show up on the side of listings, on the top of listings, and these thin banners and these short banners and these square placements. So there's all different kinds of shapes, and you can preview what that looks like. But you can also upload custom creative, and you could upload custom images or even custom videos in your retargeting campaigns. And actually, you know what? I forgot to, let me back up real quick before we get into the setup on what retargeting is in general. So there's retargeting and remarketing. Amazon just bundles everything into the word remarketing, So it's called sponsored display remarketing, what Amazon allows you to do. But what it really is retargeting. And that means that you're targeting a shopper who is for some reason already familiar with your brand. And they get familiar with your brand by either visiting your listing or purchasing your product. Those are the two main ways that a shopper becomes familiar with your brand. So retargeting is basically showing ads only to shoppers who have visited your listing or have purchased your product. So that's what retargeting means. And now let's get into actually what it looks like to set this up. So what you're looking at here is this GIF of what it looks like to create this campaign. So first you see these basic settings, budget, name, ad group. Then you get into this bidding settings, and that's where you choose optimize for reach, optimize for page visits, or optimize for conversions. And then you get into the ad format, which you can choose either an image ad or a video ad. And these are the first basic setup configurations that you need to know. So first of all, when it comes to the bidding, optimize for reach, optimize for page visits, optimize for conversions. This means that Amazon will try to optimize your bid for either the best bid to get a conversion, meaning a purchase, or the best bid to get a view of your listing, or this first one that says optimize for reach, that's called the VCPM campaign. This is actually a completely different type of advertising, independent from all the different ad setups that you could possibly do, including in sponsored products, sponsored brand, and sponsored display. VCPM campaigns are actually not PPC. They are not pay per click. They're pay per 1,000 impressions. And so you can actually get successful campaigns with VCPM campaigns, but we're not going to talk about that during today because they're very dangerous. The way they display data on the back end makes it look like it's doing better than it is. And Amazon attributes organic sales to those campaigns just if somebody loaded it on their screen, even if they never even saw the ad and for sure never even clicked the ad, they'll still attribute those sales to those campaigns. So it's very difficult to know whether you're doing well or not doing well. For an agency like mine, like we have the ability to go really deep in the data and know whether it's working well or not. But for your typical brand owner, we don't recommend it and you really don't need it. It's not like a super ninja hack or anything like that. So the two main settings for bidding you're going to be looking at are these two that you see at the bottom here: optimize for page visits and optimize for conversions. So the obvious one is optimize for conversions because you think, okay, obviously I want to optimize my bid for a purchase because that's what I really want. But actually, we've split tested both. And sometimes optimizing bids for views for some reason produces better results. And sometimes optimizing for conversions produces better results. So when it comes to the bidding choice, your default should be optimized for conversions. But once you go deep on this and you actually start producing results with your Amazon retargeting campaigns, you should split test the bidding strategy of optimizing for views as well, because sometimes it actually works better. But again, your default is optimized for conversions. Okay, now let's talk about the creative, the end of this GIF that I'm showing here, this looping GIF. The two options you have available to you are image ad or video ad. And you can do retargeting with either one, which is pretty cool. It's only since last summer that you could do sponsored display video ads. Prior to that, the only way to do a video ad was a sponsored brand ad. And the only place those showed up was in the middle of search results. So this is like fairly new. And it shows up in a number of different places, including other competitors' listings. But in this case, we're showing it only to people who have engaged with our brand in some way. All right. So that's the first bulk of campaign setup, just to explain it to you guys. And we'll go into the actual best use case scenarios. Now, here's the next bit of setup that you'll see in your screen when you're setting these campaigns up. So you can see here, it gives you three choices: Amazon audiences, views remarketing, and purchase remarketing. And you can see when I go into views remarketing, I have a option to choose from a selection of lookback periods going from 7 days all the way to 90 days. Now, when I click purchase remarketing, Again, I see the option to select different look back periods, but this time it goes from 7 days to 365 days. So what is this look back period section? You know what? We're going to get into that, so I won't go super deep in here, but I wanted to give you guys an idea of what this looks like. So you remember from the other ad types, contextual targeting. This means I'm targeting products or in products or categories. Well, sponsored display is the only type of advertising that gives you audience targeting, which includes these two remarketing segments. So now we finally made it to the actual remarketing part, the remarketing setup part of sponsored display. And this is what it looks like in your advertising manager. So now we'll actually dig into this. Before I get into like the nitty gritties of the actual setup, I wanted to show you guys this. What you're looking at me scrolling around here is what we call the Amazon product lifecycle map. So what this is a visual map showing all possible campaign configurations in one view. So, and you know what? I made this GIF so that it would scroll through without me interrupting the presentation. But I think what I'm going to do instead is actually share this view with you because I think it'll be more interactive for you guys. So check this out. So this is the product lifecycle map that I have in front of me. What this map shows is every possible Amazon PPC campaign configuration that there is. There's no possible setup that's not represented in this one view. You know, and it looks like you're like, oh, wow, like that's a lot of information in one view. Like it's kind of overwhelming, but really it's actually pretty cool to be able to see it's only a defined number of different setups that you could possibly do. And this includes every kind of setting you can have in a campaign, from the bidding to the placements. We actually have a little legend over here. So this shows all the different placement types, the different landing pages that shoppers land on when they click the ad, the bidding settings, any kind of creative uploads like video or image, the targeting, who's going to see the ad, and the manual inputs. And this legend shows you what you're looking at from those different
This
settings.
is really cool, Chris. I think this is something
It's
that will be
cool, right?
useful to a lot of sellers because there's like all these new ad types popping up. There's like the look back
Yeah.
periods, and it's kind of hard to keep track. But if we have something like this, and even, I mean, I'm thinking maybe I should just print this up and throw it on my wall or something so I can like try to,
Yeah.
study it and digest it. But,
That's kind of what I
this is
do.
really cool.
I
Yeah.
I don't have it physically printed on my wall, but what I have is like a shortcut on my desktop so that I can
Yeah.
access it anytime.
Yeah.
Honestly, I would like to print it out and put it on my wall because like PPC is basically my life. Like I spend so much of my time on Amazon PPC. But
Yeah.
but yeah, so that's what this map
Obviously,
is, and
we're
super
like the
valuable.
like the Amazon nerds. Like other people are putting up
Yeah,
posters of like holidays and beaches. We're like throwing up
bands.
PPC maps
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah,
But
right. That's our version of like an
but
ACDC poster.
yeah, yeah. But anyways, yeah, good stuff. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. So what we're looking at now is this section. You can see this tree has three big branches. One is the sponsored display branch, one is this sponsored brands branch, and then one is this sponsored products branch here. There's also a DSP branch, but that's not shown on this map. That's a whole different one. So we're zoomed in right now inside sponsored display. And the first thing that you see, as you guys saw when I was sharing my screen, is the manual inputs of the name, the portfolio you want to put it in, start date, end date, daily budget. And then you see what type of bid optimization you want. And this was the first big decision that we talked about: optimize for conversions, optimize for page visits, or optimize for reach. Once you set that up, you have only two choices: a video ad or a custom image ad. And the custom image ad, you don't need an image. You just have the option to put an image. And then you get into the targeting. So inside the targeting, you're either targeting Amazon audiences or contextual targeting. Now we're going to basically close off this whole part of the tree here because this has nothing to do with remarketing. Contextual targeting is the targeting you guys are already familiar with from the other ad types, where you're either targeting a product or a number of products or a whole category. So we're going to ignore that and we're going to go to Amazon audiences. Now, inside Amazon audiences, there are actually three different options. there's Amazon audiences, there's purchase remarketing, and then there's views remarketing. And you can see when I just zoom the screen to just here, that purchase remarketing allows you to select look back periods of 7 days, 14 days, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 180 days, or 360 days. And it's not like a continuous sliding scale. These are quantified look back periods where you have to select one of these 7 selections here. So purchase remarketing allows you to go much further back. Views remarketing allows you to only go up to 90 days. And if you think about it, this actually makes sense, because if somebody viewed my listing like 3 months ago, I mean, already it's a very low likelihood that they're really going to remember it. It made a big enough impact on them for their memory of it to actually impact their decision making now. So shorter look back periods tend to work better in views remarketing, because purchase remarketing, they have the product in their life. It's affecting them on a day-to-day basis. And it might take a whole year for it to wear out or get used up, or for them to want to buy one for their mom or whatever. That's normal. But for views remarketing, it doesn't make sense to remarket to people too far out. So that's why you have less look back periods. So the definition of the look back period is how long ago did this event happen that triggered the remarketing? So in the views remarketing, let's focus on that for a second. How long ago was it that someone viewed our listing? If we want to remarket to someone who viewed our listing in the last 7 days, we're going to select that 7-day look back period. If we want to remarket to people who have viewed our listing all the way back to within the past 14 days, then we're going to select the 14-day look back period, and on like that. So 90-day look back period is the max, where we're remarketing to people who actually viewed our product 90 days ago. Now, the actual one question that always comes up is, are they inclusive or exclusive? Well, it seems that Amazon prioritizes the views that are between the look back period. So if I'm doing a look back period of 60 days, Amazon's mostly going to be trying to show it to people who have viewed the listing between 30 and 60 days ago, but it can show the listing to anybody who has seen it within any time within the last 60 days. But that's what we see in the data. So purchase remarketing is similar. Am I advertising this to people who purchased the product within the last 7 days? Or am I advertising this to people who purchased the product 30 days ago, within the last 30 days, or all the way up to 360 days? And this is one of the biggest questions, is how to select the look back period. And I think that's what we're about to get into now. Let me just, before I click off the tree of potential, let me see if there's anything else that I need to select here. So then you either select custom video creative or image creative. And the default that you guys should focus on now, because this is something that you can implement right away, is this one, the image ad. So you're by default going to try selecting this image ad, and you don't need to upload an image. You only have to upload, you have the option to upload an image. And I actually wouldn't recommend it unless you have a really killer image that you know displays something specific about the product, like a use case that's rare or very compelling, or a like X factor of the product that you want to display. And those can work really well if you have the assets. But if you don't, these work just fine with no custom image upload at all. So let's get into how to determine the look back period now that we're here. And I'm going to get back to this actual slideshow presentation here. So when we're setting up these campaigns, how do we determine the look back period? You could see the options available to us in views remarketing here on the left, and you could see the options available to us in purchase remarketing here on the right. And you could see that this, like I said before, it's not a sliding scale. You have to choose one. They're either 5, distinct choices, or there's 7 distinct choices on the purchase remarketing. So how do you choose? Well, there's basically 2 ways to approach this. One is to hypothesize. And there are quite a few ways to come up with a hypothesis of which look back period will work best. So let's touch on views remarketing first. If I'm remarketing to people who viewed my listing, who is going to be more relevant? Somebody who viewed my listing 7 days ago, or someone who viewed my listing 60 days ago? I'd love to hear you guys in the chat, like what you guys would guess.
All right, so enter your answer in the chat. Daniel says
I
7 days
see
ago.
7.
Robert 7, Tony 7, Oksana
Yeah.
7, Ingrid said 7. So
Okay.
it's unanimous.
Nice. Well, we got a smart gang here because they're right that the 7 days ago is typically the most relevant audience. So for views remarketing, it's actually quite simple to hypothesize who's going to, but which look back period is going to work best, because the shorter the look back period, the fresher it is in their memory. So it is typically good if you have a limited budget and you need to start small, to start with a 7-day views remarketing look back campaign. So we talked about hypothesizing with views look back, and there are some cases where this can be different, like for instance products that are very high priced, in like the hundreds. It tends to be that shoppers will look at different choices for a long time, like sometimes even weeks or even months. And that look back period for views remarketing could be the best performing one, could be different, based on the amount of time it takes the shopper to make the purchase decision. So it's not always the case, but the general rule of thumb is that lower look back periods work better. So we came up with some hypotheses via views. How do we come up with hypotheses when it comes to purchase remarketing? Well, there are a few ways to do this. One is if you know about your product, and you have some idea of the time it takes for someone to make another purchase because of your knowledge of the product itself, that's one piece of data that you have. It's definitely not the one that you listen to completely, because what you know about the product could be completely different than what the data says. But if you are selling some consumables brand, like say I'm selling car detail paint, and I'm selling this paint that just details cars, and I know how long it takes for someone to use up their car detailing paint and buy another one on average, because it's part of our marketing, and we use it ourselves and we study it and stuff like that. Then that's a good one to start with. If I know, okay, 3 months it usually takes for someone to use up this stuff, and then they need another one, then a 90-day look back period is going to be a good one to start with, or between 90 and 180 days. So that's one source of data that you have. Another one is your actual repeat purchase behavior data. So you can actually access your repeat purchase behavior data inside Amazon Seller Central, inside of Brand Analytics. So it's one of the features of Brand Analytics inside your Seller Central account to show your repeat purchase data. The problem is it gives you the average number of customers who do repeat purchases, the average number of purchases per customer, but it's not giving you the average time between purchases. So you can get an idea of how effective purchase remarketing will be by using this brand analytics data, but you are not necessarily going to get the look back period answer from that. The only way to source that from the data is to, one, either download your order reports and sift through the data yourself, which is tough, and you have to be pretty good at spreadsheets, or two, use a software that does this. And one of them is called Nozzle.ai. It's by, I think, a mutual friend of you and I is Gary. I believe you know him as well, Ryle. And Nozzle.ai is a software. I have no affiliation with them except for my friendship with Ryle. It's a software that helps you learn about your own customer lifetime value, and it tells you a ton of data about the repeat purchase behavior of your customers. So it's another source of data. So you've got your own knowledge of the product, you've got your actual order reports, and then if you want, you can go to a third-party software that analyzes your orders for you and lets you know this data yourself. So those are some ways to get ideas of the best look back periods for purchase remarketing. However, hypothesizing is not the only way to figure out which look back period works best. In fact, it's not even the best way. The best way to find out which look back period works best is to test all of them. So what we actually do is, if you see here, we'll create separate individual campaigns for each one of these look back periods for both types of remarketing. Now, we're not necessarily going to do all of this all at once, especially depending on the budget available for the brand that we're working on. But that is actually, in fact, the best way to find out what look back period works best. And it takes a bit of time to get this data back because you're going to be concurrently testing these different look back periods and seeing which ones perform well. And now this is where we touch on the actual bidding question, because once you see which look back periods are working the best by setting up different campaigns with different look back periods, then you can adjust the bids for the look back periods and up the bids for the ones that are performing really well to get more of those placements, and decrease the bids for the ones that are not performing well. So that's how you handle the look back periods. Now talking through views remarketing versus purchase remarketing. A lot of people think purchase remarketing only works for consumables brands like these supplements, soaps and things that go on your skin, skincare, things that get used up. And purchase remarketing is kind of like a no-brainer for these guys. Every supplements or every consumables brand that we have in our Sophie family that we manage PPC for, we always do remarketing for them. We always do purchase remarketing and views remarketing. But purchase remarketing is not only for consumables products, because let me give you a few other examples. Take a look at these products. These are chair cushions or chair pads that this is not a consumable product, but it is something that people continue to buy because eventually it gets worn down or used up. And also they buy them for additional chairs in their house, or they buy them for their brother or their mom once they determine that the product is actually good quality. So actually almost every brand, not every brand, but almost every brand has the ability to try purchase remarketing to see if it works for them. Now we'll go to the other side of the spectrum here and go for like a highly technical, more high priced product, right? You can see this one is $168. This is a professional tripod for someone who is actually a filmographer or a photographer. This type of product is less likely to be purchased, at least the exact same product. You can do similar to advertised product remarketing, but to remarket to people who purchase the product for the very same product, you only have up to a year to do purchase remarketing. So if this thing is meant to last you 5 or 10 years before it wears out, and people typically just don't buy it again for high priced products like this that are supposed to last a lifetime, purchase remarketing may not work very well. Now, again, it's not even in this case, it's worth testing once you've got your other ad types dialed in. It's just not the first ad type that I would try. We would try it much later on in the product's life cycle on Amazon. First, we would dial in its sponsored product ads and dial in its video ads and its sponsored brand ads. We dial in its views remarketing. We wouldn't start turning on the purchase remarketing until later on to test it out, because it's not the highest probability of success, although it definitely is still worth testing. So that's a little note there. This is that software I was talking about, Nozzle, by my buddy Ryle. In case any of you guys want to check it out, it's nozzle.ai. So recap, views remarketing, every product can have views remarketing, every product. And in fact, high priced products actually can have really good performing views remarketing. I'm going to show you guys some examples later. Purchase remarketing is good for most products. It's not necessarily good for every single product, but it's worth testing on most of them. Whereas views remarketing, I haven't come across a product yet that's not worth testing, at least views remarketing. So this is kind of like a standard part of your PPC pack. I actually go through the whole framework for what order to set up campaigns in and when to set up which campaigns and what campaigns to set up based on your product lifecycle inside the event I'm hosting later on in the month that Gary alluded to, the Profitable PPC Challenge. We have a very in-depth session on all of this that puts this in a framework so that okay, when should I spin up these campaigns? Am I ready for it? Am I not? The framework allows you to know whether or not it makes sense for you to start these campaigns and when to start the different ones. So if you guys are interested in that, Gary's going to drop a link later, and I'll tell you guys more about that a little bit later on. So let me do a quick time check. All right, cool. I'm going to move a little bit faster here because we're running a bit low on time and I want to make sure we have time for questions. Here's a mental framework that I use. I actually sent out an email about this for any of you guys that are on my email list. If you're not, shoot me your email in the chat and I'm happy to add you. But this is called the concentric circles philosophy. It's also known as, by Alex Hormozi, calls it the puddle, pond, lake, ocean concept. And then there are other people that have called it the 1,000 true fans concept. But the concept is you start with the smallest, most relevant audience, and then you expand out to the next biggest pool of a little bit less relevant audience, and then you expand out to a bigger pool of even less relevant audience in that order. So I'm always going to try to start with the audience that's most relevant to me and is the smallest audience. So if you think about it, my purchase remarketing is only if I have a 10% conversion rate and for every 100 visits to my listing, I get 10 purchases. That means that my views remarketing audience is 10 times bigger than my purchase remarketing audience. But if I know people tend to buy my product multiple times because they love it and they buy one for their mom, or they buy one again when it gets used up, or they buy one for their son or their brother or for their other seat in their car or whatever it is, this is actually the highest relevance audience because they're the most familiar, most intimately familiar with my brand, the guys who purchased it because they actually have it in their possession. Whereas the views remarketing, okay, they landed on my listing, so they saw me, but I certainly don't remember every listing I land on when I'm shopping on Amazon. I visit probably hundreds of them every month. So they're familiar with you, and the audience is about 10 times bigger, anywhere between 5 and 10 times bigger. But they're a little bit less relevant than the guys who intimately know, right? And then after that is Amazon audiences, where you can actually, so this is also considered advertising to similar products, where they might not even be familiar with your product at all, but they are familiar with the space, they're familiar with the category, and they might have done some shopping around. So it's a much bigger audience, much bigger audience, but much less relevant as well. We always go from the smallest out. Get the ones working that have the highest probability of working. And then as time goes on, you test bigger and bigger, less and less relevant audiences. That's how it works. So do we use advertising to advertise products or similar to advertise products? Now, here again, we have the concentric circles philosophy. Whereas if I'm advertising to people who viewed this very product, then that is the highest relevance audience. If I'm advertising to other people who landed on the pages of products that are related to mine, that's a much bigger audience because there's a whole bunch of other products that are related to my products. But again, they're not familiar with my particular brand. So they're not as likely to convert. And that's not technically remarketing. Amazon calls it purchase remarketing, but it's not remarketing because the people are not familiar with you. They're familiar with a product like yours. But it is worth trying out. It's just not the first thing to try. The first thing you try is always the smallest, highest relevance audience. And then these Amazon categories, this one we only do by refining it. And I won't go super deep on this because, again, it's not technically remarketing, but you hit this refine button here, and then you can advertise to a selection of a sub niche of only brands that are both have a worse star rating than you and are higher priced than you. And so it makes it a no-brainer for the shopper to actually click your product and check you guys out because you're literally better in every way. So that highly refined audience category targeting can be very powerful. But we won't go super deep in that today. So that's a broad overview, guys, of the sponsored display remarketing. And I hope that set you guys on the right track. Again, it's all about the testing. But now we're going to dive into another type of remarketing, which is called step campaigns, self-targeted product placement campaigns. This is actually inside sponsored products, and it is not an official sanctioned Amazon retargeting type. What it is it's a campaign setup configuration that causes the effect of effective retargeting. So here's how you set it up. You go to sponsored products, you go to manual targeting, then you're going to go to product targeting. Then you select exact, but make sure that here expanded is unchecked. So you're only targeting exact. And then in this box, you're going to input one ASIN, and that is the same ASIN that you're advertising. So what this does is it's setting up a campaign that targets the very same ASIN that you're advertising. And what this hypothetically would do is advertise your product on that same product's own listing. So you'd see a little thumbnail of your own product on that product's listing. That's technically what this should do. But that's not actually what it does, because Amazon actually doesn't do that. It doesn't advertise products on that same product's own listing. You can advertise your products on your other products in your brand's listings. So if I sell makeup remover kit and I also sell eyeliner, I can advertise my makeup remover kit on my eyeliner listing. I can advertise my eyeliner on my makeup remover kit listing, but I can't advertise my makeup remover kit on the makeup remover kit's own listing. But that's what this is technically asking Amazon to do, but Amazon won't do it. So it basically catches Amazon in this kind of catch-22, and that's why this is sort of a retargeting hack. Because what this does, since Amazon won't show the listing, I thought I had to, yeah, here it is. Say I'm shopping for this hand blender, and I click this listing to go on this hand blender page, and then I go back to search results. This is where I'm going to see the ad. So again, I went to Amazon, I searched industrial hand blender or professional hand blender, and I scroll through the listings, and I just click one randomly. Well, now the shopper has officially landed on my listing, but they didn't buy it. So they're searching again for hand blenders. Now that they visited my listing, my ad is going to show up as a sponsored products ad. So this isn't Amazon's official retargeting, but you could see that that's effectively what it is. And it can work within moments. So we're not talking 7-day look back periods, 90-day look back periods. We're talking about like seconds, like look back seconds, not look back days. And this is a really effective campaign type. I had a screenshot here that I buzzed over, but this shows an 8% ACoS campaign that we have, 12 ROAS. That's a step campaign. This is a 5% ACoS campaign that we have. That's a step campaign. You can see we got 72,000 in sales off of 3,600 in ad spend. Here's another one that has 5x ROAS. So the ACoS on that is 17%. Here's another one with a 12x ROAS. Here's another one with, what would that be? A 7 ROAS, which would be somewhere around, I think, 13% ACoS. So 7, almost 17K in sales off of 2K in ad spend. So it's a really effective type of remarketing. And going back to what happens here, the reason it's so effective is because it seems to be pretty much immediate. Now, again, this isn't something that I'm teaching you guys that I read in a blog or something. Like, we discovered this inside our own masterminds because we were just seeing, okay, we were literally just playing, like experimenting, like, okay, what would happen if we targeted our own ASIN? And we did, and we found it produced a very low volume. So it's not going to get you much sales. So I'll give you guys that warning. But it gives you high profit sales. That's the thing. So this is like this is a cool hack. I love it. We do it on every single brand that we manage. And we manage a lot of brands. So this is one of the main things that one of the like foundational things that we put in place is step campaigns for every product. Because it's like, again, going back to the concentric circles philosophy, a very small group of very highly relevant audiences. And especially for products like this that people tend to shop around, this is a pretty pricey product. You can see most of the prices are in the hundreds. Now, it doesn't have to be a high price product, but there's certain types of products this actually works exceptionally well for. This very product that I'm using as an example here is the one that I showed you guys before that had this, where was it? 5% ACoS. So, yeah, in any case, I'm realizing that I am about over time here. So I want to make sure we have time for questions. Like I said, those are not the only types of retargeting. There's also DSP retargeting. And we could go way deeper into the creatives that you have the ability to upload inside sponsored display retargeting. But that's as much time as we have to cover today. I hope I gave you guys a foundational knowledge of how to approach this, how to think about it. As I mentioned earlier, we are hosting an event called the Profitable PPC Challenge. We've done it 2 times before. And actually, what you see scrolling on the screen is the feedback that we got about it. People went nuts for this. It is, I believe, the most well-attended Amazon PPC focused event by sellers of the year so far. And we do cap the number of attendees who come to the challenge. I'd love to see you guys there if you're really committed to this, to mastering PPC. Be wonderful to see you guys there. I will say that it is a time commitment. You do have to show up every day to the sessions. This isn't one of those things where like it's a 5-day challenge and you log in, it's like pre-recorded. And no, like you show up, we put your name down in a sheet and we track whether or not you're showing up, and we track if you're doing your assignments, and we track if you're understanding things properly. And if you're not, we have dozens of mentors that are senior PPC strategists in private chats with you. And I'm in there as well, so that you can say, okay, this is where I'm getting hung up, or this is where I'm having issues. The mentors will be coming in, answering all your questions. They're like recording looms, recording voice notes. Like we get really deep and really intimate. In fact, last time we did it, I think a couple people cried on the last day because they had become so connected to the mentors and everyone else, and just got super emotional, because every single person that joins is a name, not a number. Now, again, I say all that stuff that sounds really nice, but it is a commitment, and we are quite strict about it. So if you're not able to commit to showing up each day, and you don't get back to us about why, or you're not at least watching the replays before the next day so you could keep following on, we will ask you to leave and give you a refund. So, and we have a limited number of seats. So only sign up for this if you are really committed to it and you really are. Everything I said sounds like, oh yeah, that's definitely me. If you're on the fence, just leave the seat for someone else. It's better to just keep the people that are super, super engaged and super motivated to completely transform their PPC. But oh yeah, and also over here, I put my my Instagram QR code / my tag hippie mogul. So if you have questions about it, you can DM me there. I'm a real person. So yeah, and that's my email, hello@sophiesociety.com. Again, I'm actually better via email. So you can email me there. And Gary, I think you are dropping a link to the challenge for those that are on that want
Yes.
to check it out.
I already dropped the link to the Profitable PPC Challenge. And Chris, could you quickly cover what are the requirements for people to join and what are the dates for the challenge?
Yes. Yes, it's happening from September 18th to September 22nd. So it's those 5 days. In order to join, you have to be selling on Amazon with a live product, because you're actually doing things throughout the week. So if you're aspiring to sell or you'd like to sell sometime in the future, this is not the right event for you. It's really a deep workshop intensive for people who have products live. And ideally you have Amazon PPC already running and you're trying to make it better, but it could also be that you just haven't even started PPC yet and you just want to get it going. That's fine too. You just have to be actively selling on Amazon.
All right, perfect. So I already dropped the link in the chat. I feel that Chris is probably he's one of the leaders when it comes to Amazon PPC, and the fact that he's able to do these hacks, and even Amazon suspecting that he's doing something, he's doing something on the on that side, but really he's not. He's really going deep. So I definitely feel that this can help a lot of sellers. And just to be transparent, I am an affiliate of the PPC Challenge program because I believe this will help a lot of sellers. So if you do join the program, it will buy me some coffee. I do need coffee to keep this show running, and helps to keep this program free for you guys. All right. Let's get to some
Especially the
questions.
hours that you work, Gary. You need coffee
Yes.
because you're waking up at like 5 a.m. to do some of
I
these
am.
these
I am.
events.
We,
So
we do it early and we do it late, but that's my mission, to do everything I can to help sellers like you guys succeed here in the room today. All right, let's get to some questions. We'll take the questions in the order that they were received. I did see an earlier question. Someone was asking about the Miro, like Ruben asked, Chris, can you share the Miro workspace?
So that actual Miro board that we're in, I can't share because it's an internal board that we're constantly updating. So we have the team in there that's always moving things around. But I actually do have this available for people to download as a PDF, and I can actually drop the link in here if anybody's interested in downloading this.
Yes, I mean, I'm interested. Ruben is interested. I'm sure others are as well. That would be great. And
Yeah,
next
this is at
question.
tree.sophiesociety.com. That's where you can get it. And it's PDF form. I basically separate it into 3 different PDFs because it's so big, it's hard to
Mm,
zoom in as one PDF. So you
yeah,
download one that shows the whole thing, but it's too big to really
perfect.
be functional. So we split it into 3. There's one sponsored product branch, one sponsored display branch, and one sponsored brands at branch.
Okay, excellent. There were several people that asked to join your mailing list, Chris. So I will save those emails, pass them on to you. Nancy
Cool.
asked, "What is the suggested budget for the ASIN targeting?"
Yeah, for the product targeting. Yeah, so the step campaigns, the self-targeted product placement campaigns, what we typically do is we start with Amazon suggested bid, and we'll actually do a top of search bid adjuster of about 100%. So this is a starting point, but what you really want to do is see if you can get if you're getting impressions, and because again, what's happening with this campaign is you're targeting an ASIN, but you're actually showing up in search. Which this is a weird thing for those of you guys who are unfamiliar with this concept. Inside sponsored products, whether you're targeting a product or you're targeting a keyword, you can actually show up both on product pages and in search. So it's kind of weird. I've never really been sure why Amazon does this, but you can't actually restrict your product from showing up in search and product pages. But when you're doing a step campaign, most of the placements are going to be in search. So we start with, near the suggested bid, sometimes a little bit over, and we do a top of search bid adjuster that's higher so that we're showing up at the top. And then what you basically do is over time, you check the impressions, see if you're getting impressions. And if you're not, you can up the bid and or up the top of search bid adjuster. And that bid adjuster goes all the way up to 900%. So it used to be that the bid adjuster had a huge impact, and you could do a very low bid with a super high bid adjuster of 900% and almost guarantee that you're going to get most of your placements on search. That's not so much the case anymore. The top of search bid adjuster doesn't work as well as it used to. So sometimes you just have to keep upping the bid until you get those placements.
Okay, excellent. Next question from Oksana. How to determine bids for self-targeted campaigns? Start low.
Yep, that's basically same answer as before. So you could start just around the Amazon suggested bid with a top of search
Okay.
bid adjuster. And the main thing is the ongoing management, because we find sometimes for whatever reason it's like really easy to get placements and we can actually lower the bid. Sometimes it's harder, and Amazon, it takes a while for Amazon to warm up. And in that case, we up the bid to make sure that Amazon's got the leeway to show us.
Okay. And Jason asked, how would you choose the bid from $0 to $2 when doing these campaigns? Is that
So I'm assuming he's talking about so that was at 3:48 past the hour. So that's about the same. So that
yeah?
would actually again be the same answer. That's how you
Okay.
determine the bidding. You start somewhere around it. So depending on your history with the brand, if you tend to have a hard time getting placements, start with a bid that's above Amazon's suggested bid. But if you don't have a hard time getting placements, you could start at or even below the suggested bid with just a higher top of search bid adjuster.
Excellent. Oksana asked, is it worth to use SD category / brands targeting if my product is better, but the most expensive one? LOL.
Yes, absolutely. So that's actually an awesome question. And the reason Oksana is asking this for the rest of you guys is that because I could tell that you've already dabbled in this, Oksana. So you seem pretty experienced, because the sort of going philosophy is when you're doing category targeting or brand targeting, which is a type of targeting you could do in any of the three ad types. You could do it in sponsor product, sponsor brand, or sponsor display. You just go into contextual targeting and then category targeting. And then you could either target your subcategory. So an example of that would be coffee mugs, or you could target particular brands. So an example of that would be I'm targeting Chris's coffee mugs and then Amy's cups. So that's what Oksana is referring to. The going wisdom on this, and this is what we do, is when you're targeting a category, you refine the targeting by clicking refine on the category, and you target only the brands that are both more expensive and have a lower star rating than you, because then it makes it a no-brainer for the shopper to click your ad because you're cheaper and better, according to shoppers. So what Oksana is asking is, if I'm the most expensive one, but I am better, is it still worth it for me to do category targeting? And the answer is definitely yes, because a lot of times, so shoppers, as you probably know, Oksana, relate price to quality. They think, whether or not this is rational or not, they think that the products that are more expensive are of a higher quality. So a lot of times what you could do is the exact reverse strategy, where you're targeting the cheap brands. And you could be targeting the really cheap brands that have a lower star rating. So people are thinking, how did I end up on these cheap, piece of junk imported, factory direct products? And then they see your ad of like the shiny, super nice one. Now, one of the coolest things that you could do, if you know you're the best, is use a custom image ad when you're category targeting that shows something in the image is showing how you're different. And if you can nail this, it can provide you really exciting returns, where you're targeting only the competitors that are cheap, like they're cheaper, they don't have super good ratings, and you're showing in the image why yours is premium luxury, or has this unique selling proposition that the other ones don't have. You can absolutely crush with category targeting using that strategy.
Very interesting. Excellent. All right. We have time for one last question. Jason, what and how can you choose ASINs do you try to target when creating the manual product targeting campaign?
So yeah, a sponsor display manual product targeting campaign is not technically retargeting. So this is, outside of the domain that we're talking about here, but we'll talk through it. So when you're choosing ASINs for sponsor display manual product targeting, it's the same process as when you're doing product targeting for sponsor brand or sponsored product ads. You're doing the research up front. You're coming up with ASINs based on your own research inside Helium 10 and in Amazon search results. But most importantly, you're letting the data make the decision. So one of the most effective ways to determine ASINs to target in sponsor display manual product targeting is setting up category targeting and letting Amazon choose the ASINs to advertise on, and then using your search term reports to determine which of those ads is producing best, which of those ASIN targets is producing best, and then you pull those out and you put them in their own dedicated campaigns. So I'll say that again because there's a lot of words. So I'm putting in place category targeting ads in sponsored display, letting Amazon choose my targets. And then from pulling my reports, I determine which targets are working best, and I use those ASINs to target. So Jason, you'll lose some money up front by letting Amazon choose these targets, but it's going to give you the data you need to nail those targets. And a lot of times we find there's a few targets that work really, really well. So it's like you just, uncovered gold. Every time you advertise on this listing, this particular listing, they tend to click your ad and they tend to convert. So it's worth it. And the one other way to find this information is through expanded product targeting. So inside sponsored products, there's a type of product targeting called expanded product targeting, where if you go into sponsored products and then you target individual products, that you have two options to tick boxes. One is exact and one is expanded. Let me go back to that slide real quick and I'll show you what I mean, because I think I'm still sharing my screen here. Here. So you have exact and you have expanded. So clicking expanded and not exact, and then putting in your own ASIN, similar to how we set up the step campaign, we're targeting our own ASIN, the very same ASIN that we're advertising, but instead of exact, we're doing expanded here. Amazon is actually really good at finding good ASIN targets if you set it up this way. So again, I go to sponsored products, I select the ASIN that I want to advertise, and then I put in the very same ASIN here as the target, but I click expanded instead of exact. This allows Amazon to find similar products like mine to advertise on, and it does a very good job. So you let this run for a few weeks, find ASIN targets that are working really well, and then those ASIN targets you could target with all three ad types: sponsored product, sponsored brand, and sponsored display ads.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you very much, Chris. We got a lot of positive feedback tonight. And I feel like you guys, I mean, for everyone that's still here, definitely consider joining the PPC challenge that Chris is hosting later in September. I think that will help up with a lot of you guys. And yeah, thank you again, Chris.
Thank you,
we
bro.
still have,
This is great as
yeah,
always.
yeah,
I love
man.
it.
Yeah, thanks so much. And we're out of time. I'm sorry we gotta run, guys. If you haven't already, grab Chris's contact info, Instagram, email, follow up with him. Highly recommend that you follow up and get this PPC show on the road, guys. All right. So thank you again, Chris, for coming on. Thank you everybody for joining us. We will see you guys at the next session. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, guys.